Class of 21, I want to send you my condolences. Hello everybody, I'm Kat, and I am a part of the very cursed class of 21. I am a senior in high school currently. This year has been so stressful. I haven't understood all the hype around senior year because it's been more stressful than any other year of high school. Part of it is because of the pandemic that is currently ongoing. Hopefully, class of 22, you guys get a somewhat normal senior year experience. But class of 21, we had it worse than 20. Let's be honest. Because of this very stressful time, I ended up buying a ton of books. I've been accumulating these books since August. Some of them I actually bought for school, others I did not. So without further ado, let me get into this massive book haul, which is honestly probably going to be the biggest book haul I've ever filmed on my channel. The very first book I have on this list is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. I've actually seen this book pop up on a bunch of people's favorites of 2020 lists, and that makes me so excited to read it. So this book follows this guy named Luke, and he is the son of these rock star parents, and there's all these scandals surrounding his parents, putting him in the public eye. And so to kind of take himself out of being under the heat of the press, he ends up forming a fake relationship with this relatively normal guy named Oliver, and then I can imagine, you know, they eventually have real feelings for each other. Fake dating trope, 10 out of 10. This sounds just so adorable. Like I mentioned before, this has been popping up on different people's favorites of 2020 list, which makes me even more excited to pick this up. Hopefully, I will do it very soon. The next book on this list is Faith Taking Flight by Julie Murphy. This book follows this girl named Faith during her senior year as she begins to discover new things about herself, acquire new powers, and then use them to help save the world. This just sounds adorable. I've only read one Julie Murphy book, and it's one of my favorite contemporaries I've ever read, so I'm very much looking forward to reading more by Julie Murphy. I absolutely adore this cover. It's so beautiful. Next, I have Break Your Glass Slippers by Amanda Lovelace. This is the first book in Amanda Lovelace's new poetry series collection. This actually made my honorable mentions list of 2020. I was so surprised at how much I really enjoyed it. I read Amanda Lovelace's Women Are Some Kind of Magic poetry collection series, and I wasn't that big a fan of it. I thought that the poems were okay, but this actually really surprised me, and I ended up really enjoying this book. Next, I have a copy of A Midsummer's Night's Dream by Shakespeare, which I honestly bought because I want to read this. This is a book that you would probably think I bought for school, but I did not. I bought it to read on my own time. I've read some parts of it because I am in theater classes, and you're bound to come across some Shakespeare in theater classes. I actually saw an adaptation of this when I was really little, and I didn't really fully understand everything that was going on. I really want to revisit this. So I ended up going to my used bookstore right around the time school started, and I came across this particular book, and I've been wanting a bind up like this for many years now. When I came across it and I saw that it was only $3, I knew I needed to have it, and that is Edgar Allan Poe's Selected Works. This entire thing was $3. Do you see this? It says selected works, but it actually has all of his short stories in here. It doesn't have all of the poems he's written in here. It only has a selected variety of the poems he's written in here. Stuff like The Raven, Annabel Lee, you know. But I have wanted one of these bad boys for many years now, and there's one at Barnes & Noble that's super expensive that I've been having my eye on, but then when I came across this for $3, I was like, you got me. You got me. So this year, because I technically earned all of my English credits last year, I decided to take an elective English course because I'm very grateful my school offers it. So for the first semester, it was a course called Myths and Monsters, and then second semester, which is where I'm at right now, it's called Sci-Fi. And so now we're getting into some of the books that I bought for school. So the first one I have here is Parallel Myths. This I obviously bought for the Myths and Monsters class that I took last semester. It has a bunch of different myths from various cultures. What's cool about it is that each chapter is kind of divided by a genre, and then it lists the different myths from the different cultures in this genre and how they compare to each other. This is another one I bought for my Myths and Monsters class, and that is mythology. I ended up reading a few of the myths out of here. I did not read this whole gigantic thing. Mythology has always fascinated me. I'm a big Percy Jackson fan. I was one of those kids in middle school, alright? Go ahead and judge. And then I bought one of my most favorite things I read this year, and that is the Heartstopper comics by Alice Oseman. We have volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3. Oh, I love this series so much. Nick and Charlie are like my actual sons. I love them with all of my heart. I'm too young to be a mom, but I am a mom to them. I love the art style. Alice Oseman is so incredibly talented. This series had me hooked. I read all 3 of these very quickly. After I finished volume 1, I ordered volumes 2 and 3, and literally after I clicked like order, I sat out the window like Kermit in that one meme and was just waiting for them to come in the mail because I just need more of them in my life. I love Nick and Charlie so much. So of course, after I read Heartstopper and I became immediately obsessed with everything Nick and Charlie and Alice Oseman, I went out and bought more Alice Oseman books. So the kind of shorter ones on this list are This Winter and Nick and Charlie. These are both solitaire novellas, so I think you do have to read solitaire before you jump into these. Obviously, I have not read these because I am currently reading solitaire. I'm like 170 pages into this and I am obsessed. It's so well written. I just love it. I'm finally becoming an Alice Oseman stan, and I feel like this was meant to happen. I adore this book so far. I've been loving my time with it. Beautiful work. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then the last Alice Oseman book I have here is Radio Silence, which everyone and their mother has praised. I remember when this came out and everyone was talking about it, and it had like the cover of like the dark woods and the road. Obviously, I don't have that cover. Everyone and their mother praises this book, so I'm obviously very excited to read this. Alright, so my battery's about to die, so we have to quickly get through all these books. There's so many of them. Next up on here is Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu's The Lost Book of the White. This is the sequel in the Eldest Curses series. It follows Magnus and Alec. This book takes place after City of Heavenly Fire / Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, but before Lady Midnight and the Dark Artifices series. I can't really talk about anything else spoiler-wise, but that's all you need to know. Next, I bought more books for school. 2 of these are for the sci-fi class I'm taking this semester. One of them was for the Myths and Monsters class. The one for the Myths and Monsters class I have here is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. This book follows a wizard named Ged who suddenly discovers he has powers. He's sent to a magic school. It was kind of fun to read about. I think I gave it like 3 stars. Next, I have 1984 by George Orwell and The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I don't know anything about these books, but I will be reading them this semester. Next, I have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. If you don't know what this is about, I don't know what to tell you. A man brings an inanimate body to life with lightning. This book I also read for my Myths and Monsters class. I actually really enjoyed my time with this. Some people either really love it or they really hate it, but I thought it was pretty good. The next book I have here is Smash It by Francina Simone. Smash It is about this girl who decides to write a list of things that she just wants to do, and she doesn't care what gets in the way of it because she's taking control of her own life, and good for her. Francina Simone is a booktuber on here. This book has been getting really good reviews and I'm really excited for it. Next, I have One Way or Another by Cara McDowell, and I honestly don't know a single thing about this book, but hey, the cover is really cute and very wintry. Next, I have here I Wish You All the Best by Mason Dever. I know that this book follows a non-binary main character and they're kind of dealing with like falling out from their parents not being supportive. This is another book that received really high praise, I want to say in 2019. So once again, I am behind the curve, but I finally have a copy of it now. Next, I have I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. This is about a girl who goes on a K-pop like singing competition show. She gets a lot of flack for being plus size, and it's about her kind of coming into her own, learning to love herself and be more confident in who she is and her performance. This sounds really cute. I love stuff with music and singing competitions, like books like that. Chef's kiss. Next, I have Star-Crossed by Minnie Dark. This is a romance novel. This is about a woman who writes like the astrology section of like a newspaper, and her childhood crush, whom she has recently come back in contact with, is obsessed with this section, and I don't know. Stuff happens. I don't know. It sounds really cute. I actually haven't heard too many things about it, but the cover's really cute. It sounds really cute. Next, I have Laura Dean is Breaking Up With Me, which I just talked about in my disappointments video, so go watch that where I discuss about it. Next, I have Dear Justice Justice by Nick Stone. This is the sequel companion to Dear Martin by Nick Stone. I believe it follows one of the characters we meet briefly in Dear Martin. This character is writing to Justice, who is the main character of Dear Martin. Next, I have House of Salt and Sorrow, which is a dark retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. I'm only familiar with the Barbie version of the 12 Dancing Princesses, but when I tell you that it's made me who I am, I genuinely mean that. I would not be here today if it weren't for the 12 Dancing Princesses. So when I heard that this was a dark retelling of that story, I immediately had to go out and buy it because I love that damn story with my whole heart. So anyway, that is what this is. It has a cool cover, very dark, mysterious. There's like seashells on it. Next, I have The Spring Girls by Anna Todd. I'm not going to talk about this right now because it's being saved for a later video. Woo! Next, I have V. Schwab's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is like everyone's favorite book of the year. I have to read it. I'm excited to. I've only read one other thing by V.E. Schwab. It was the Monsters of Verity duology. I love that duology, one of my favorite series I've ever read. Cannot wait to read this. Next, I have Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. This is Marissa Meyer's young adult contemporary fiction. Last year I read Winter. It was one of my favorite books of the year. I was reminded of how much I love Marissa Meyer's writing style. I know I'm gonna love this. Next, I have here How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. This is a novella that takes place in the world of like the Cruel Prince and all that. I just want to see some Carden in here. I love him. I love him. Next, I have The Raven Cycle Quartet because I don't actually own it and I've been really looking forward to reading it because everyone and their mother loves this series and I have not read it. So yeah, I hope to read it. I also want to know why exactly does Halsey and Maggie Stiffwater have beef? I want to know the tea. I know it's over a scene in this series, but I don't know what scene because I've never read it. Next, I bought The Outsiders, and I bought this because it actually is very common, at least here in America, to read it in middle school, but for some reason I was never taught like to read it in middle school. So I figured, you know what, now that I'm a senior, 4 years later, I will read this book. Next, I bought this beautiful edition of Matilda by Roald Dahl. Matilda is one of my favorite books from childhood, and when I saw this at Barnes & Noble, I immediately gravitated towards it and I could not put it down because I love the artwork. Next, I bought Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. One of my elementary school teachers read it out loud to me. I saw this at my used bookstore and was reminded of how much I love this story, and I figured, you know what, it's time to reread it. The next book I have here is The Great Gatsby graphic novel, which I actually read right before 2020 ended. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun way to revisit the story. I love this story. Next I have here are two Emery Lord books. One is Open Road Summer, which honestly the summary sounds like a Taylor Swift type of book, and I love Taylor Swift. This one is about a girl. It's her senior year and there's like drama going on, and because my senior year has zero drama in it because I'm not at school, I need some senior year drama in my life, you know what I mean? The next book I have here is One Silver Summer by Rachel Hickman. This honestly sounded like What a Girl Wants, the movie with Amanda Bynes and Colin Firth, and when I read the summary, I immediately hit add to cart because you know what? I love that movie. Next I have Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, which is another thing that is for a later video that I will talk about later and explain later. And finally I have here Halsey's poetry collection, I Would Leave Me If I Could, which made it onto my favorites list this year, so if you want to hear me talk more about it, go watch my favorites video. Alright, and that is it for this video. I don't know how I've made it this far without my camera dying. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the bell icon. I'm looking forward to creating a bunch of content for you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!